The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our TranSight 5.0 training. TranSight is the leading software solution for evaluating the total economic effects of transportation policy. And Jeffrey Dykes will be showing how to use some features within the model. I'm Brian Reel, and I'll be hosting the webinar. Jeff has been an analyst at REMI for 8 years now and provides support to our clients. I'm Brian, and I'm the marketing assistant at REMI. You can ask questions at any time in the question box, and we'll answer them at the end. But if we run out of time, we'll make sure to reach out directly to anyone we miss. Thank you for attending. We're very excited to present, and take it away, Jeff.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm looking forward to talking about TranSight 5.0, which is our new version of our transportation modeling software. So I'll be going through a brief presentation on what the new changes are to it, and then going through a model demonstration after to show how it can be used and integrated with travel demand data and project prioritization and all sorts of things like that. Okay, so you should be able to see the screen here. So about REMI, we've been around since 1980. So it's based on we should test the economic effects of policies before implementing them. So that's the whole idea behind the software that we have. So for TranSight in particular, it's looking at impacts of transportation policy, so evaluating transportation policy and what the economic impact is before implementing that and allocating funds towards transportation planning. So a couple of different things that we use TranSight for: long-range planning, project prioritization, cost-benefit analysis, economic impact analysis, transportation financing, TIP and STIP planning. So there are all sorts of tools with ranking simulations in the so accounting for different travel demand data and ranking based on economic impacts and travel demand data. So we'll go more into that. So it's same as what I mentioned before. So we look at all sorts of data based on income, employment, demographics, output, GDP. So there's all sorts of results variables available if you're looking to see what the effect is of particular policies on the economy. That's all done to the at the local level, down to the county level. So it's customized to any specific region. And then just going over the general equilibrium model. So it's a TranSight is a general equilibrium model, an IO model. It has economic geography. So all of those components are integrated within the REMI interface. The input data. So this chart over here just goes over what type of data can go into the model. There's project-specific data. So if you have construction, operations, maintenance, financing, that's input in one category, and then you'll have travel demand data that you can incorporate: VMT, VHT, trips, other parameters too, like emissions and safety. And then in the results, you can calculate, and we'll go through this in the demo. You'll be able to calculate employment, GDP, population, labor force. You'll be able to see how certain policies make the area more efficient. So you'll be able to see that extensively. Applications of TranSight. So a couple of our clients that have used it in the past and that currently use it. Southern California Association of Governments, California, Arizona DOT, Louisiana, Illinois DOT, Michigan and New York. We looked at the Gateway program, which is the tunnel that's proposed between New York and New Jersey. So we use the TranSight model for that. A couple others listed on the right. And then, so going from the prior version of the model to this version, we made a couple improvements in terms of especially project prioritization and new ways of incorporating data having to do with a transportation project. So there are more ways of entering that data. So it's more flexible now in this new version. And so now we'll go to the model demonstration to give you an idea of the new interface. So this is this particular model here is a 4-region model in Georgia. Just look at the baseline data here. We can show a map of which regions are included. So Atlanta, the Atlanta suburbs, and rest of Georgia, and Savannah. So this is an example of one of the types of configurations. It could be any particular county or groups of counties that that we can build. Some of the different types of data in the baseline. This is looking at the forecast out to 2080. So there's employment, population, GDP, different income tables, prices, and then all these categories can be expanded in more detail in the results. But we won't go too much into that today. This is employment by industry, for example. So let's just go to the model linkages just to show an overview of how the model works. This looks at all of the different economic demographic concepts and how they're interrelated. So like employment feeding into personal income, consumption, and then feeding back into output and employment. So this is a good summary of how the model works and how the overall economy works. So I'll go back to the home screen here. So there's a based on from the previous version to this, there's an improved user interface. We have the if we want to do a new regional simulation here, other types of forecasts. If we want to change the new change baseline data, that's done through here, or national baseline data. This new transportation project, this is one of the new features here. And this, I'll just open this up here. So this lets you input specific types of costs and benefits that apply to a certain type of road expansion, or could be maybe a bridge that's being built. And I have a particular example in this model here. So it walks you through step by step on showing having some inputs for based on the data that you have. So for this, you select the type of cost inputs that you have. So let's say you have construction and O&M data. You'll check those options there, and it'll give you the option to enter values year by year. There's also design and planning, land acquisition costs. So those are some other things that you can include with this if there's data for that. And then next we'll move to the benefit input. So this is where you can enter vehicle miles traveled, hours traveled, or speed. So if you had speed changes and vehicle miles traveled, you could enter that. So you would enter the data in each of these categories here. So at that point, you'll have costs and benefits entered. And then this next screen will bring you to the BC ratio. It'll compile all of the costs and benefits. You can set a custom discount rate, and it'll look at what the overall BC ratio. In this example, using a 7% discount rate, it's 3.5. And then prioritization. So you, after doing the same process with looks like 9 different types of projects, highway widening, mostly improvements to the highways. It looks at the costs and benefits for each, looks at the BC ratio, so you can rank these. So it's one interface to be able to rank several different types of projects simultaneously. And then if you then wanted to run and see what the economic impact is of each of these, this is where you do the forecast conversion, and then it'll create policy variables that where you can look at what the impact is of that construction and the travel demand. If you have financing too, you can incorporate that. So this example something funded by gas tax. We have the effective distance variables, commuting, accessibility, transportation costs. So what efficiencies this project lends, changes in emissions, so all these other components, construction costs. So then we can run that and then see what see how that affects the economy. Just run it for a couple of years. So now we can see the effect. So we can go by region too. So the number of jobs it creates, 38 jobs, population, personal income, all of that. And then we can also go through all of these categories here. The economic tables, we wanted to look at employment by industry or changes to prices. So that's all. That interface is similar to the PI Plus. So let's save this. So this transportation project module is one of the things that's new to TranSight 5.0. Makes it easy to look at everything and rank in one interface here. Another way you can also still use travel demand data as in the previous interface, so entering baseline and adjusted vehicle miles, hours, and trips. And that's, I have an example here of that. So if you have that type of data, we can go back to the travel demand editor. So there's still this familiar interface that that you'll have here. So highway, transit, we can do auto and truck. So all different types of modes. We'll go into the parameters as well. So this is using this interface here. This can allow you to go into a little more detail with adjusting parameters. So vehicle occupancy, accident rates, fuel costs. These are all national averages. So they can, especially since gas prices have been going up so much, it could be useful to be able to change this in the model as you run scenarios. So yeah, different types of fuel costs. For transit too, so transit accident rates, vehicle occupancy, parameters. So, but for this simulation, I looked at making auto and truck speeds slightly faster. So that by improving the speed, you're improving commuting, accessibility, and transportation costs. Commuting costs have more to do with autos, so people being able to drive to work more quickly. It decreases costs associated with that. Accessibility and transportation costs. This is more involved with changes in truck speeds. When trucks can go from one place to another faster, then that decreases these types of costs. And then when we run the simulation, we'll look at the results here. So it's looking at so just with the travel demand data itself, and this isn't including construction or operations and maintenance. This is just looking at the efficiency of the network. This is adding 6,000 jobs, 7,000 jobs per year. GDP, in addition to 700 million in GDP. Personal income. Decreases in prices. So that's where this is mainly coming from, where the efficiency is increasing of the network, so the prices are decreasing. If we look at cost of production, that's another component that's related. Industry price profile. Relative cost of production. Look at percent change. So in Atlanta, the cost of production as a result of this improvement in the highway, it's decreasing 0.07%. So that'll help benefit the economy. Another component here is the socioeconomic indicators. So this breaks out the results in a couple different categories. So we'll be looking at employment by income level. So if we want to see the income distribution based on the jobs that are created, which quintile are those going towards? If they're more more evenly distributed, or if more are going to upper income or lower income categories. This is important to look at with transportation projects because they're expensive and they using a lot of public funding. It's important to make sure that they're equitable. So in this case, the lowest quintile has the highest change in employment. Here's the second 20, middle, fourth, and highest. They all experience increases, but the lowest quintiles are affected in the best way. There's also employment by education, in addition to the income and demographics. So looking at what type of educational attainment. So high school diploma or equivalent all the way up to doctoral degree. So it shows based on the jobs that are created, what types of degrees those require. So, and then a couple other categories here. So that's those are some of the things that you can look at when doing a simulation with in TranSight and having this this SEI, Socioeconomic Indicators. It's an additional module, but when this is added, then you have the ability to go through these additional categories here. So I also wanted to just go over a couple other things. So in addition to the projects, we looked at the projects tab here and looked at some of these sample projects. Another way of doing project prioritization is in the studies module. So this studies here, we can, this lets you import variables from that maybe you're working on from the main model interface, and then it lets you rank them in a similar way. So if you can create a weighting factor to rank. So if you if one project, say it adds more employment, but then another one doesn't add as much employment but adds more safety. This lets you create a ranking for each creates metrics for each project that you have, and then rank them by what's most important for the stakeholders. So this is also something that's useful. So it's it can take the data here and then add additional indicators to that. Yeah, so we talked about the interface and then project prioritization, this new transportation project module. There's and then also the travel demand data. So I'd like to open it up if anyone has any questions. I'd like to address those, and we also have a demo version of this available on our website in case you wanted to check out the functionality. Also, it's before I open it up for questions, in the documentation section, there's a user's guide. So this goes over some of the new features in the model. So if you download the demo version, this will be available within that, kind of going over all the features and looking at some of the new features as well. Brian, do we have any questions here?
Yep, so we'll go through our first question is, does the model give economic outputs to specific transportation investments like widening of road or expanding of a transit system in terms of total new employment or change in the regional GDP? If the model gives these outputs, is it based on some study? Is this also applicable to a group of projects?
Oh yeah. So that can be, that's given for all of the any simulation you do. We can look at employment and GDP by so based on this example was the improvement in the network. So this could be a road widening example. Just looking at the travel demand data associated with that, and then this is the associated change in employment and GDP. So you could then take this data and look at employment gained per dollar of GDP. So you can, a lot of times the results are used and then they're used to derive other results, just like what you mentioned. So but you can also go into the economic tables here. Employment, there are all sorts of employment tables, employment by industry, by region, by demand source, so direct, indirect, induced. And then GDP here under the GDP profile, this shows the whole GDP equation. So the C plus I plus G. And so you can drill down to whatever detail you'd be looking for. This is by region too. So whatever regions are in the model, you have the ability to switch between those.
Great.
We have another question, Brian?
That was the final question we had.
All right. Yeah, well, if anyone has anything, any follow-up questions, feel free to contact me through email, or give the office a call. I'd be happy to talk about that. And then also the demo version of the website, that's available for download. So let us hope to hear from anyone who has any additional follow-up questions, and thanks for attending.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can specifically reach out to the info@remi.com email address, and then we'll coordinate and get a meeting set up with one of our analysts to support you in any way that we can. You can find out more information about our upcoming webinars on our website, remi.com. And again, thank you for the great presentation, Jeff. Thank you for everybody who attended. And have a great day. We hope to see you at future webinars. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Bye.